Hi, welcome back to my channel and another video today. I'm going to be giving you my top 10 favourite horror movies from the 2010s. So I recently actually did a video like this talking about my favourite horrors we've had in the 2020s so far, and I fancy doing sort of a follow-up and a companion video to that, talking about a decade earlier throughout the 2010s, all of the great horror we had. I've seen so many releases from these years and it was really hard to narrow it down to just 10. I love horror, for all of you that know me, and I've watched a lot over these years, so very hard list to make, but I'm very happy with these 10 picks. And of course, please do let me know down below in the comments what your favourite horror movies were from the 2010s. So anyway, let's get into the list. So my number 10 choice is going to be The Conjuring, and this is actually my favourite James Wan film. I loved everything he did with this. It was a massive step up from what he set up in Insidious in terms of going into this type of horror, because the possession stuff, it's not really my kind of horror film, but I just think The Conjuring gets everything right, and it works so well just because you've got great main characters, very likeable actors with Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson. They've got a great presence, and I love following along them on this story and just seeing how their relationship unfolds with this family going through this haunting, this possession, and just seeing all of that play out. It always keeps me engaged in everything that's going on. And yeah, I just love the atmosphere. The setting of the atmosphere really pulls you in. There's some really scary sequences, and it just slowly builds and builds all the way through until it really all kicks off in the final 20 minutes or so. So in terms of possession films and this type of horror, I think The Conjuring is about as good as you can get. My number 9 choice is Green Room, and I actually just re-watched this again the other day, having not seen it since it came out in cinemas, and I'd actually forgotten how good this movie really was. I liked it the first time I saw it, but I don't know if I just wasn't in the right mood, but I think it was just so dark and brutal. It was a little bit off-putting to me at the time when I saw this, but watching it again now, I was able to really appreciate this. And a bit about the story here for people who haven't heard about this. It's about a punk rock group who are touring, and they're basically really struggling with money, and they end up getting offered a gig at a venue run by this Nazi group. And once they're there, they end up stumbling across something that they shouldn't have seen, and this group end up holding them captive here and won't let them leave. And just this nightmare situation plays out from there. And the thing I really loved about this was just how real the situation feels. It's a really scary situation. You could kind of see how a set of escalating events could occur and happen like this. And just watching everything play out it's a really intense movie, and I just got pulled so into it. And I just appreciate a few things like the nuance of some of the characters. Even though it is this Nazi group, they're not played really comically over the top. So I think that's what kind of gives it that really gritty, real feel about it. And I just love the lead actor as well, Anton Yelchin, great character, and so sad that this actor, of course, died in real life, later on that year, and it was such a shame because he was such a fantastic actor and brought loads to this movie. I would love to have seen him in further things after this, but this is one that if you haven't heard of before, it's an A24 release, so if you like their kind of stuff, you kind of know a bit what you're in for with the tone and the style, but it's absolutely fantastic and well worth a watch. So my number 8 choice is the Evil Dead remake from 2013. And for anybody that's seen the reviews on my channel of the Evil Dead films will know this is in fact my favourite of the series. And I just think Fede Alvarez did an amazing job with this one, just really brought so much into this. Obviously using the background, the setup of Evil Dead, but I think there's more intensity here. I gel with the characters a little bit more. I really liked all of the kind of metaphors for drug addiction, and just kind of giving this setup where you've got a really interesting reason as to why these characters can't leave this situation. You've got this girl Mia who's going through she's gone through drug addiction, and she's on a detox, and she's trying to get away with it all, so her friends have taken her out here to kind of go through this period, this really difficult time for her. And obviously when all the crazy stuff starts happening, you have this kind of thing happening where she doesn't know whether what she's seeing is real or whether this is just the withdrawal, just kind of the hallucinations and everything. And I really love that there. It's a really interesting little twist to put in there on the story. And above that, yeah, as I say, it's just such an intense ride. You know, there's unbelievable amounts of gore and violence and all of that crazy stuff. You know, it basically gets to the halfway mark and everything gets turned up to 11, and it just does not let up from there. You know, the final sequence in particular is just absolutely insane. It looks amazing, and every time I leave this movie I'm just like, what did I just watch? So it's a great experience, and again, as I say, I personally think the best Evil Dead film we've had so far. So my number 7 choice is It Comes at Night. And this was a really interesting movie. I actually watched this for the first time during the COVID pandemic, and I think I was just in the mood for seeing something like this at the time. Again, the story here being about this virus outbreak where, I mean, we never really know the scale of it as such, but it seemingly wiped out some of the population. People don't know how dangerous it really is, and people are living in these very isolated environments. You know, people living out in little bunkers and little villages on their own. And you basically get to see the story develop between these two different families who meet each other during this pandemic. And something I found really interesting about this film is it's really dealing with the themes of, you know, fear, paranoia, anxiety, and how those things really manifest in a situation where times are so uncertain, where people are scared, where people are not entirely sure what's going on, they don't know who to trust. And just, you see, as society breaks down, so many things start to fall apart. And I thought that was really interesting. I looked at a couple of the reviews for this, and I saw that a lot of people were not actually that pleased with this movie. I think they might have been expecting something more literal from the title, with It Comes at Night, you know, maybe like a creature thing or something like that. But it's really a much more small-scale film, you know. Just about these two families and watching their relationship unfold together and things getting slowly more tense and all of these problems effectively coming out of nowhere, just out of this, as I say, the fear, the paranoia. And just such a fascinating movie. I was absolutely gripped by this. Again, like some of the previous ones, it is very dark as well, especially where it goes towards the end. But I just found this a fascinating watch, a really intriguing movie, and quite unique as well. Like, it really wasn't what I was expecting. So I don't know if over time, maybe if people rewatch this now with different expectations, I think maybe they'd get a little bit more from this. But I thought it was brilliant. So that's my number 7 choice. My number 6 choice, Midsommar. And this is one I'm considering actually doing a full review for next week. It's the last movie on this list that I watched again. Just because I wanted to see this long extended director's cut. I haven't actually seen this since it came out at cinema. And I bought the extended director's edition when I came out, but I've never got round to watching it. Mainly because this is just a stressful film to watch. I remember when I took a group of my friends to go and see this when it was released. I kind of told them it was a bit of like a light horror movie, you know, a nice little afternoon horror movie, and they came out all traumatized after seeing this. And yeah, it's a lot. So it took me a little while to kind of be in the right mood, I think, to revisit this again. But I really love this movie, though. I love Ari Aster as a director. There's something about, again, what he brings to movies. It is unique in horror. I genuinely think he is one of the big horror directors around right now, one of the more exciting ones. And, you know, he often deals with the theme of grief in his movies and kind of brings that into a separate story and shows how the two themes kind of mix together. And I just think he does a fantastic job of it. Like, here, this is really kind of like the Wicker Man. Have you ever seen the old Wicker Man film? It's basically that, with also a very much a character story about grief, relationships breaking down, and kind of pulling these two things together. And yeah, I just think it really works. It certainly won't be for everyone, this. I know a lot of people don't like Midsommar. You know, it's a very long, very slow burn film. You have to really be into it. You'll kind of know within the first hour or so whether you're kind of into the vibe of it. As it is, you have to be a little bit patient with it, especially this director's cut as well, because this is very long. But if you're into it, you're going to love this. That's why so many people have talked about this movie. I really think it is something special. And there are a lot of scenes that will definitely stay with you, particularly the opening scene. Again, Ari Aster likes to put scenes in there that will just really sort of stick in your brain and won't let you forget them. And the opening, the scene before the title credits was this for me. Just really shocking, really disturbing. And yeah, part of the reason why it took me so long to watch this movie again, and not always in the mood to see this, but when I am, I'm kind of blown away by it. So really great film. Number 5, again going with another Ari Aster film, Hereditary. And I remember when I first saw this and I was just blown away by it. A horror film that genuinely took me by surprise, shocked me, and genuinely lived up to the hype of how scary it was. I genuinely think there is a case to be made about this being the scariest movie currently out in the world right now. And again, some people say it's not that scary, but tell me one that's scarier, please. But I really had a good time with this, and I really did think it's an incredibly directed movie. Again, dealing with the themes of trauma, the themes of grief, and everything like that, and just watching this family fall apart in this horrific situation. It's really like a drama and a horror. The first half feels like a drama. The second half is when it goes into a full-blown horror movie. And I just love the mix here. And again, when the horror hits, you feel it more because you've had time to invest yourself in these characters, really get into everything that's going on. And after that particularly shocking event in the middle happens, it just does not let up from there. And on top of that as well, I think it's got some really amazing performances. Like Toni Collette in this is just absolutely unbelievable. Again, her and Florence Pugh from Midsommar as well. The two of them just kind of displaying emotions and grief, just so convincing. You really buy into it. And it's quite disturbing to watch just because of how real it feels when these characters are going through these certain traumatic events. So again, another film that's really stuck with me. Not one I watch that often, but whenever I do, I'm just really, sort of blown away by it. I really love this movie. I think the only criticism I have is on rewatches I've noticed it's maybe a little bit longer than it needs to be. I think there's a few scenes, something like the seance scene in particular in the middle, where she goes round to the woman who she's meeting who Toni Collette's character is meeting at the support group and stuff. I think some of that stuff maybe could have been cut out. I don't know if that entirely needs to be there. So I did feel the length a little bit more on subsequent rewatches, but no, overall, again, this is a dark, scary, harsh horror movie, but an extremely effective one. My number 4 choice is A Quiet Place, and I am actually going to review these leading up to the new release later this month because I'm so excited about that. And that's because they set up such an amazing world and story with this original Quiet Place. And this one actually took me by surprise when it came out, and I think that every time I've rewatched it, I just get a little bit more from it. It's easily one of my favourite apocalyptic films, and I think the main thing that makes it work so well is this sort of family dynamic, the chemistry between all these family members. Especially, the fact that John Krasinski and Emily Blunt are married in real life, you genuinely feel the love between these two characters. It feels very convincing, really pulls you in and makes you care about them just within a matter of minutes. So you're really with them along on this story. And again, I love the apocalyptic setting. I thought this was a very cool, creative idea as well, to set them up in this world where society is broken down and you have these creatures who operate by listening out for sound. So this family have to kind of try and find this new way to live where everything you do has to be in absolute silence. So obviously that creates some very, very tense situations. And I just think there is some amazing sequences in this film. Like the one scene in particular that always stands out to me is where the creatures get into the house and Emily Blunt's character is about to give birth, and she's sort of crawling up into that bath before she screams. It's just an unbelievable sequence, so intense. And when I see that, it really just takes my breath away. So incredible acting, an amazing sequence. and just so many things make this film stand out to me. And as I say, more and more rewatches with it, I've just loved it more and more. So yeah, very excited what they're going to do with Quiet Place Day 1 when we get that at the end of the month. My number 3 choice is It Follows. And I'm actually quite surprised. I don't think I've ever talked about this movie on my channel before. But this is actually one of my favourite horror movies of all time. I love this one to death. And I just can't ever take away from that first experience I had seeing this. After a friend recommended it to me, she was like, you need to see this, it's right up your street. And I went in completely blind to it and was just taken aback by how insane this horror movie was, especially when you know nothing about it, just watching this sort of story play out. It's completely crazy. And I just think something about the idea, this is one of those horror movie concepts and ideas that just really gets under my skin. Like, you can watch a monster or a creature or something running at you and you get the intense sequences and everything, but there's just something so much more disturbing about having something that's always just slowly walking towards you at one pace. There's this thing that's wherever you are, it's always walking towards you when it's latched onto you. And something about that is just so disturbing to me. Like when you see this character group all together and you can just get that feeling of that constant sense of dread and anxiety that they're all feeling knowing this thing is coming. Oh, it's a horrible thought, and it really gets to me. So I kind of love watching this whole situation play out. And it's just got the film's just got an amazing atmosphere as well. You've got this soundtrack by Disaster Piece, which I've listened to a number of times, and it just perfectly suits the mood and the setting of this movie, just a mix of the two together. Something about the whole thing just really works. And it's a slow movie, but it's one that I love every single second of it. And again, it's got some really scary moments in here as well. Like the scene with the tall man, I think that is, if I made a video talking about my, say, top 10 scariest moments in horror movies, you can bet that scene would make my list. Because again, when I saw that, I had no idea it's coming. I just felt this massive chill up my spine and was just like, I was shocked by how creepy it was. Just an amazing horror sequence. That's really stuck with me. So yeah, really hope we get a follow-up to this. I keep hearing rumours of it. I have no idea whether it's true or not, but I really want to see them do a follow-up to this because this really is an amazing horror movie. My number 2 choice is Get Out, and this for me is easily Jordan Peele's best horror film we've had from him so far. I'm on the page with a lot of people that he's one of the best horror movie directors working today. And even though I haven't loved all of his movies, I'm always just really excited and intrigued to see what he's going to do next, because there's something about his style, the concepts he's working with that just pull me in. They're just unique, they're just really bringing something fresh to horror. And I just think he got it perfect with Get Out, just enough. It's a concept that's just strange enough to where it doesn't really stretch believability or go too off the rails. I love all of the social commentary he's got in there as well, to do with race and all of that, those kind of situations that play out. And again, there's just so much going on in this. There's so many little details that just make this for a really gripping story. And it just felt, again, when I first saw this, I was just amazed by it. It felt really fresh and really unique to me. I absolutely love Daniel Kaluuya in the main role. It's the first time I'd ever seen him in a movie, and I just thought he was a great character to follow. And I was just the whole time wondering, like, what the hell is actually going on here? Like, I was just so intrigued to see what the final sort of reveal or twist was going to be, and it's even more crazy and shocking than you can imagine leading up to it. And it was just, it's a fantastic idea for a movie, and I just love the way it plays out. So many interesting sequences and so rewatchable as well. Again, all of me and my friends, we love this movie, been back to it a number of times, and I was very much on the hype when this movie came out. I was like, this is the best horror movie of the year. I was all about Jordan Peele. And again, even though I don't think Us and Nope have been as good as Get Out, I'm still just so excited to see what this guy does next, because he just set the bar so high with Get Out. I think that's what's kind of given him these expectations, but if we know he's capable of movies like this, you have to be excited about what potentially he's going to bring us with his future movies. and my favourite horror movie from the 2010s. I hope you all consider this a horror movie, because I certainly do, and that is Black Swan. Again, another one that I recently rewatched, and I've always loved this movie. I think this is easily Darren Aronofsky's best movie, the one of his that I would genuinely give a 5 out of 5 rating. And just such an intriguing story, you know, about this woman played by Natalie Portman, who's a competitive dancer. She's trying to get the part within Swan Lake, and you know, she's quite an innocent kind of character. She's grown up in a very controlling household, and you know, she kind of acts and sees things a certain way, and she's stuck in her ways, I think is the best way of saying it. And for this role, she really needs to sort of broaden her personality and sort of take on a bit of the darker side as well, kind of get more in touch with her sexuality and all these kind of things as well, to be able to really bring the life that is needed to this role. And you just watch as her obsession takes control of her. The things go down a very dark route. And yeah, I just love everything about this story and how it plays out. This is, I think, Natalie Portman's best ever role. This is what made me consider her to be my favourite actress. I just think she's absolutely phenomenal in this film. I love her when she kind of meets with Mila Kunis, the other girl that's kind of competing for this role, and how their relationship sort of develops and plays out. And it's one of those movies as well that's a little bit art house. It's a little bit weird in some of the directions that it goes, where you know, you have kind of unexpected moments that feel like dream sequences, and you're not really sure what's real and what's not, but it never takes it too far. It's always kind of, it stays just grounded enough, so it has the right effect. So I think it's just the right balance, because I think sometimes Aronofsky, he goes a little bit too far into the weird to me, where I'm just like, I start getting lost and being like, what the hell is going on? But I think he got the balance just right in Black Swan. And it's really a story that deals with the themes of obsession and how that can lead you down a very dark and tragic path, like from the outset, with this character of Nina that Natalie Portman's playing. Just from seeing her lifestyle and her obsession and her kind of drive to do nothing but be in the perfect part, you can see how that has the potential to take her down a really sort of dark direction, and obviously here in the most extreme of cases. So yeah, it's a very, very intriguing story. It's a very immersive experience, just from the way it's all directed, and the way the characters kind of pull you in. It's so fast paced, and just kind of being in this world for 2 hours, I'm just absolutely kind of stunned by it. I really, really love this movie, and I get why it got so much praise at the time. It's one I've gone back and rewatched a number of times, and I'm at a point now where I'd be comfortable putting it in probably sort of my top 20 or 30 movies of all time. So it's an incredible movie, and it's one that I think everybody should see, and that's why it makes the top of this list as my favourite horror movie of the 2010s. So that is my top 10 list for the best horror movies of the 2010s. Please do let me know down in the comments what you think of my list, as well as your favourite horror movies from this decade. Also, please do consider subscribing to the channel as well if you've been enjoying my content. I'd really appreciate that. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.